It's always a pleasure to welcome back to the program Ann Coulter. I wish there were a stock market exchange where I could track Ann Coulter's stock in Donald Trump because it has varied a lot over the last 2 years. And it'd be interesting to see the graph drawn from initial enthusiasm, much like her one-time enthusiasm for Chris Christie, which faded over the years, maybe not even years, maybe months, to the present, where Donald Trump is now going to the mat. And I'd agree with you ahead of time, and that he went to the mat late, but he's still on the mat, and it appears he's going to stay there. And I even see signs that the Democrat dam of resistance against funding a border wall is beginning to crack. Welcome back, Ann.
Hello, Lars Larson.
So,
Constantly throwing in this Chris Christie business, I believe, is intended to indicate fickleness on my part. Unlike you, I am not making predictions about the future. We'll see if we get a wall when we get it. All I'm doing is telling you what the best options are at the time. And Chris Christie was the best option until he was for amnesty. Mitt Romney was the best option by far in 2012 on the immigration issue. He too seems to have flipped. Up until about 2 weeks ago, Trump had completely abandoned his immigration promises. I don't know if you noticed today. He's now we get him to remember that thing about the wall he promised for 18 months when he was running for president, and he tweets something about how much he loves H-1B workers. Do you remember the very first debate when he sounded more open borders than Marco Rubio, going on and on about H-1B workers, who, by the way, who are covered in Adios America? They are not highly skilled workers. They're slave laborers for the tech companies, sometimes not even as high as computer programmers. I have friends who have gotten cooks and personal trainers on the H-1B program. Once they're in, true, they're not like grape pickers. They often have some form of education from Calcutta U, but they're putting, we tell all these American kids, go to college and major in the STEM field, science, technology, engineering, math, and then there are no jobs for them because they're being underbid by low-wage foreigners. It is a form of indentured servitude. You're attached to the company if you come in on an H-1B visa, so you can't go work for Apple and then, oh, hey, Amazon gave me a better offer. No, you can't do that. You're stuck to that company. And the vast majority of them, this has been studied ad infinitum, the vast majority of them are just doing standard computer programming work. They're not tech geniuses. I guess they're putting the middle class's kids out of work, making it impossible for them to pay back their college tuition. So maybe somebody will get serious about stemming the tide of the H-1B visa holders.
I'm sorry if I got into your skin. I wasn't suggesting you were fickle, and I don't think I've mentioned Chris Christie for at least 6 months. But
last week.
Did I really mention Chris
Yes,
Christie
play back
last
the
week?
record. No, and I'm giving you Romney. You're not even mentioning Romney. I'm like the weatherman. I'm telling you what the weather is right now.
I was never crazy about Romney.
Chris Christie was the best. When I said he was the best, the moment he came out for amnesty, he was dead to me. Same thing with Romney, and we're heading that way with Trump.
Except you're assuming, if you're saying we're heading that way, that Trump's going to break and say, okay, we'll do it without the wall, because Chuck and Nancy laid down an absolute, whereas Trump has said, okay, you want a different number instead of 5.7 billion, let's go to 3 billion. A start would then make it make sense to make the case that, well, we've started the wall, and I know we have 700 miles of it already. Let's finish the thing. And all of the facts are on his side right now, and he has said he will not crack. You and I both know that having laid that down now 2 years after he won the presidency and long after he first made the promise in the summer of 2015 that he would get the wall built, that if he now caves in on it, he's done, and the Republican Party is probably largely done, and the reform to get rid of the rhinos is probably over as well.
Yes. That's why it's rather important that he keep his promise. Well, there are a lot of ways he can cave while he thinks he's saving face. The deal his Machiavellian genius son-in-law Jared Kushner is pushing would be amnesty in exchange for the wall. Well, okay, then instead of losing our country in 3 years, we lose it in 3 months. It's over if there is any amnesty passed. As I've described many times in the past, no matter how you try to limit this, I mean, for one thing, this idea that the Dreamers are, oh, no, please don't deport the Dreamers. No, I want the Dreamers deported first. I would like them deported before the illegal alien criminals, because at least when we catch the criminals, they aren't indignant. They say, okay, you got me. And we're going to, by the way, going to be paying their room and board for the foreseeable future anyway. I would definitely rather deport the Dreamers. They're absolutely beyond arrogant, demanding, bossy. Wait a second. I'm sorry for inconveniencing you, for breaking into our country and breaking a whole slew of other laws in order to work in our country. No, they should go first. But let's just say they're these lovable little puppies whom anyone would want to amnesty. No matter how the law is written. I mean, the example I give, we've done this a million times before. The example I usually give is the tiny little cutout in Reagan's amnesty, the Simpson-Mazzoli Act, for agricultural workers. You had to prove that you worked 6 months in the prior calendar year or year on an American farm. You had to prove that. It was supposed to be, just a few 100,000. Oh, they're such hard workers. They're doing backbreaking work. No American will do it. Okay, so they get this little amnesty. In the end, well more than 1 million got amnesty, including 2 of the 1993 World Trade Center bombers got amnesty. One wasn't even in the country at the time, but he delayed his deportation so that he could bomb the World Trade Center. More than 800,000 were fraudulent. What did our immigration officials do with the fraudulent ones? Let's give them amnesty. Let's take a chance on Ahmed. So you grant, and that's our immigration officials. That's even before it gets to the courts. 20 years later, under the general amnesty of the Simpson-Mazzoli Act, Reagan amnesty, 20 years later, the Ninth Circuit was amnestying hundreds of thousands of, I think it was mostly Haitians, who said, no, it's not fair. We weren't here for the last amnesty. So you grant any amnesty at all. It can be for left-handed nuclear scientists with red hair, and I promise you that is an amnesty for everyone on Earth.
I agree with you. And
that's one way he could totally blow the wall. Why doesn't he just build it? I mean, this is a fun little exercise forcing the Democrats to prove they never want to build a wall or have any border security. I'm all for him doing this, but he's president. He has the authority to build the wall. I don't care if he declares an emergency or not. He's the commander-in-chief. Just build the wall.
I agree with you. And he said that that's his holdback. Isn't that his hold card to say, if the Congress won't do it, I've got the authority, I'm going to go ahead and do it. So he's given them all the rope they need, and they've hung themselves on the idea that we're now against the wall that we literally voted for half a dozen years ago. And we are also in the absurd position of standing there against numbers like 20,000 kids dumped on our border. There's 4,000 murders, 30,000 sexual assaults, 100,000 ordinary assaults, and 250,000 criminals saying there is no crisis. And already, Ann, I'm seeing there's a young, brand new freshman Democrat from California, young lady, who said, I will vote for funding a wall. And there's one from Northern Virginia. And these newbies who didn't like Nancy to begin with are now saying, well, you know what? We're going to vote for a wall. Ann, I wish you a great weekend. I'll tell you what, I will vow to not mention Double C from New Jersey for at least another 6 months.
No, you can mention him, just not to suggest I'm the fickle one. I'm the one who is the North Star here.
I think don't go snowflake on me, Anna.
I'm just setting the record straight.
Oh, fair enough. You're listening to the Lars Larson Show, and that's Ann Coulter, the great author and syndicated columnist.